Mesdames et messieurs, the greatest festival of our contemporary society, the Olympic Games, is about to begin. This is going to be close.
Oh! They're all completely gassed! They've given it everything on the global bucket! Oh, yeah! Go! Oh!
Brilliant! But that is an Olympic championship.
Ready?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. If you love the games, we are the show for you. Each week we share stories from athletes and people behind the scenes to help you have more fun watching the games. I am your host, Jill Jaracz, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Alison Brown. Alison, hello, how are you?
Cold.
You can say that again.
Cold.
It's not Beijing cold. I will say that.
You know, I was thinking about that because we were talking a few minutes ago about our pretty much our favorite biathlete, Johannes Tingesbo, who's retiring, and they've been playing a lot of his races from Beijing, you know, little clips of him winning, and he's got the moleskin on his face. I'm like, yeah, it's not Beijing cold. And I didn't even experience the cold that you experienced. So
No. And it's just a different kind of cold. Like I went out this morning where, I mean, must have been like -2 Fahrenheit, -2 to -4
Ooh.
Fahrenheit this morning. And I had to bring in the garbage cans. And it was cold. After a little while, I started to feel it, but it's not the same because we have a lake right by my house. So you get a little humidity in with that cold. You get a lot of wind, but it's not the same as that cold coming off of the desert and the Arctic. I will tell you that. It's just not the same.
So one of the things that happened in Beijing was I met that nice Korean man on the bus who gave me that Korean scarf.
Mhm.
And for some reason, I never unwrapped it. And I put it on yesterday. This thing is fantastic. It is amazing. So thank you to the nice man from Team Korea who gave me this scarf. I had no idea.
It's very cool. Very cool.
It's featured in some of the videos that I'm making now.
Excellent. We'll look for that on socials at Flame Alive Pod. Also, what you could look for is our new Patreon episode is coming out soon. We are doing a series all year long focusing on whether or not you can learn how to become Olympian in whatever endeavor you choose by reading memoirs of Olympic athletes. We are starting with Lindsey Vonn because it's winter and we think skiing and Lindsey is making a comeback. So we're looking at her memoir, Rise, My Story. And I will tell you, I am fascinated by everything she had to say.
We have thoughts, and you can hear it if you are a Patreon patron.
That's right. So that is special for our silver medal members and up who get bonus content every month. You can check that out at flamealivepod.com/support or patreon.com/flamealivepod. So today, speaking of skiing, in a way, we are going to look at the one new sport that will be at Milan-Cortina 2026, ski mountaineering. What is it? We are here to find out and let you know. In October 2024, we spoke with Sarah Cookler, head of sport for USA Skimo. Sarah is also the head coach and executive director of the Silver Fork Skimo Foundation. She explains how the sport works, what to look out for, and which athletes to keep an eye on for 2026. Take a listen.
Sarah Cookler, thanks for taking some time with us this morning.
Absolutely. Good morning.
We kind of need to start at the very basics with ski mountaineering because most of our listeners, and certainly I, have not watched any until we were preparing for this interview. So for someone who's never seen it before, what is ski mountaineering?
So let me start from the very beginning. So ski mountaineering actually evolves from a very early sport. And it's actually a return into the Olympics, believe it or not. So in 1924, the first Olympics in Chamonix, Winter Olympics, ski mountaineering was a sport. It was called military patrol at that point. And, you know, the World War I era, many military personnel traveled up and down through the mountains on skis. So the first games had ski patrol or mountaineering patrol in it. And it was essentially ski mountaineering. You have skins on your skis and you travel up and down through the mountains. They had a rifle on their back, and that eventually evolved into the sport of biathlon. But now, fast forward another 100 years, and we're back into the Olympics in definitely a different aspect of the sport, but still ultimately traveling up and down through mountains on skis, completely self-powered, if you will. So the sport looks like this. You have small skis. They're a set length and width for males and females. So everyone's racing on very similar dimensions of gear. Those skis have metal edges on them, just like a downhill ski. They're smooth on the bottom, just like a downhill ski. However, in order to go uphill, you must apply these synthetic skins. So again, the evolution started with like an animal fur or skin that when you slide forward, it glides. And when you are going backwards, the hairs kind of stand up on end and hold you on the snow. So now there's these very fast synthetic skins that you stick to the bottom of your skis, which allow you to kind of glide and stick so you can have a running motion going up the mountain. The terrain can vary, and there's, again, multiple disciplines for ski mountaineering. In the Olympics, they're focusing on the short formats, exciting, head-to-head, fast type races, and we can get to that. But the sport itself is running uphill on skis. You get to transition points, and transitions are a very important factor in the race as far as time. And at the transitions, you take the skins off, buckle your boots, step into your skis, and then essentially you're in a downhill race, going through gates similar to alpine skiing. So it's a kind of a combination of cross-country skiing, endurance running, and fast downhill skiing, if that gives you a quick overview.
Of course, the 2-second answer, and I'm like 5,000 questions. When people tune in to the Olympics, what are they going to be watching? What are those races going to look like?
Yeah. So when they announced that ski mountaineering was going to be in the Olympics, they chose to reformat the sport a little bit so that it's more spectator friendly. So if you think about running, for instance, if you watch a marathon, I mean, the physical aspect is remarkable. How exciting it is, not terribly exciting to watch somebody run for, 3 hours on end. I think ski mountaineering, the long distance races are a little bit more picturesque because they're going up and down mountains. However, for the Olympics, if you tune in, they are going to be fast and furious races. There's the sprint discipline, which is a set course. Takes athletes about 4 to 5 minutes to complete that lap. And then you move on in heats. So think skier cross, border cross, something short track speed skating, something like that. Head-to-head racing on a set course that's really fast, and it moves on from like quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. And then there's another race called the mixed relay. And this race was actually just developed like two years ago. It's been on the World Cup for 2 years now. And so we're still trying to get an idea of who the best athletes are for this, because it's somewhere in the middle of that long distance race and a sprint race. A mixed relay race, one is really neat because it's mixed gender. You have to have a male and a female from your nation teamed up. And then similar to the sprint, it goes off in a heat format, so head-to-head racing. However, each lap is about 8 to 10 minutes, and each athlete will do it twice. So the females start in a mass start lineup. They go head-to-head. They do this kind of 2 ascents, 2 descents lap that's a set course. They tag off to their male partner. They do the same course. And then it comes back to the females for a second lap, and then the males finish with a lap. So the entire format of that race takes about 40, 45 minutes. And it's a cumulative result of your male and female teammate in their time together.
Okay, I want to go back to the sprints. When you said a lap is 4 to 5 minutes, is that the whole race of each heat? That's it.
It is. That's it. Yeah. So we're talking the evolution of a race or a sport that used to travel long distances up and over mountains, over varying terrain, over the Alps, picturesque, pointy mountains, to a set course on man-made snow that lasts 4 to 5 minutes. That's a completely different athlete, right? This is like a 400-meter sprinter versus a marathon runner.
How much elevation are they traversing when they go up in a sprint race, typically?
It's a set amount. And gosh, I probably should have pulled up the exact statistics, but it's between 90 and 120 meters. So think like 300 vertical feet. And within that ascent, there are specific skill criteria that every course has. So you start with your skis on and your skins on. They start skiing uphill, kind of running uphill. There's this diamond formation so that it allows athletes, since you start in a heat of 6, a diamond formation allows you to choose, do you go left or do you go right? But then you have to make a turn, and turning on skis is a skill in itself while you're running uphill. And then it crosses and it merges. So you have to time that, right, to either get ahead of somebody or cut them off or whatever. There's strategy in that in the first section. Then you get to a transition where they have to be inside the marked area. They take their skis off, put them on their backpack, all done in less than 10 seconds, and start running up a kind of essentially man-made staircase. They actually carve these stairs in the snow with chainsaws, and athletes run up 2 flights of stairs as fast as they possibly can, get to the top, put their skis back on, start running uphill again on their skis, get to the top of the 300 vertical feet, bend over in a completely hypoxic state, rip their skins off, put them in their suit, and ski down like a giant slalom course, so with gates, and a jump, a mandatory jump when you're on like toothpick-sized skis. And so then you've got these athletes in their full spandex flying through the air, landing, and getting to the finish line. It's very exciting.
I'm stuck on the steps carved in the snow. Because when we were in Beijing, our listeners will remember, I had a very bad experience with snow-carved steps that didn't hold up because of the weather. So, of course, now I'm worried about these people on Bormio going, they better be maintaining those steps really well. But
That
actually,
happens, yeah.
I was going to say, the weather obviously is going to play a huge factor in this because the conditions are going to change as these races are going along.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's part of it too. So the conditions are very dependent. And similar to Nordic skiing or alpine skiing, it depends on how you prepare your skis. But now it's not only how you prepare your skis for the gliding aspect, but it's how do you prepare your skins. So people are actually waxing, so applying wax to these synthetic skins so they glide faster. You can trim them down so it covers less surface area of your ski, which would then be faster, but doesn't provide as much grip. So you have to find that balance based on your technique and the quality of the snow, the pitch of the terrain, how steep it is. So there's a lot of technical aspects that go into this very, very short race. And a lot of places things can go wrong.
When you say there's a jump, what are we talking about on that downhill portion?
So it's usually pretty standard, but if you can picture in alpine racing, sometimes alpine racers are going down the descent, and then there's this like 3-foot step off. So you're taking off on one spot, and then essentially the land falls away from you, and you go through the air and you land at a different elevation. So that's exactly what it is. It's a step off jump. So you're coming, and it's usually you go around a gate, and then you've got to get into your tuck, fly over this, but there could be multiple other people going over this jump at the same time as you. And so like a skier cross kind of jump, and then landing and continuing on the course.
Okay, and then skins. Let's talk about what those are exactly, because we keep saying the word, but to me, I'm thinking, what exactly is this made of, and how are you using them, and what do they look like?
Yeah, so for those who are familiar with backcountry skiing, it's a similar aspect. Skin, again, I think the name is still derived from back when they used animal skins to do this. But now they're obviously synthetic and they're very lightweight. The bottom is adhesive, and that's what sticks to the bottom of your ski. But it's a specific type of adhesive so that when you pull it off, it doesn't leave like glue or stickiness on your ski, right? that would be detrimental. And then the plush part of it that's facing the snow are these very fine synthetic fibers that when you rub your hand in the direction that the ski would be gliding, it's very smooth. But if you rub it the opposite way, the little fibers stand up and provide like a Velcro type effect, right? So it kind of grabs, so you can't go backwards on your skis. You can go forwards. That makes sense. Now, these skins are only cover 3/4 of your ski. They attach with these little, at the tips of your skis, there's notches in the tips of the ski, and there's a bungee cord on the top of these skins that latch into the tip of the ski, which then at these transitions allows you to bend forward, grab the bungee tips, and then quickly in one motion, rip the skin off of the ski, fold it up, and put it into your race suit.
So the racers have to hang on to those skins throughout.
They do, and actually, yeah, that's a part of it. They have to hang on to them. They have to be stored appropriately before you can depart from the transition area. They can't be hanging out. They have to actually be like secured inside your suit and zipped up. And that's a whole nother part. All of these suits have really been developed for the ease and efficiency of storing the skins. Like, do you unzip it and put it in? Do you pull out this pocket and get it in? There's many different options and suit development around these fast races.
Do the suits look significantly different than other ski racing suits that we're used to seeing?
Not particularly. They're full spandex suits. They just have these like external pockets on the front chest.
They have pockets.
Yeah, exactly. They're like kangaroo pouches on the front. They can pull them open and throw their skins in.
What physical body type works very well for the sport? You know, we tend to see alpine racers are taller and stronger. What are we going to see in ski mountaineering?
You're going to see some pretty amazing athletes in general. This sport, it attracts think about the endurance and the physical aspect of a mountain runner or a top cross-country skier, but then the risk-taking and strength of a downhill skier. So a combination there. However, as I was explaining, there's been different disciplines in ski mountaineering, and then with the Olympics, this evolution of these faster races. So oftentimes when you get a faster, shorter race, it does start to lean towards the stronger, fast twitch muscles, more muscle mass athletes. However, on the World Cup, there's been certainly a mix. There are still some tall, lean athletes, and then there are some that look a little bit bulkier and stronger. But we're still talking in general, on the spectrum of a general human body type, the lean endurance athlete.
When you get to the ski portion, the downhill ski, is there much potential for crashing since they're getting in each other's way and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the general motto with these short races is the downhill is not where you're going to win the race, but it's certainly where you can lose the race, right? So if you crash out, so you think we'll make it even, like a 5-minute lap, a 5-minute race, you're going to be spending 4.5 minutes on the uphill and 30 seconds on the downhill. But if you crash, game over, right? So you've got to be a confident, strong skier to get down safely and efficiently. Yeah. And then also strong in the sense of being able to control yourself if other racers are bumping elbows and skiing on top of you.
I'm just picturing all of this and saying, this is right up Jill's alley. She loves the cross races, the ski cross, and anything where people are head to head. That's
And I think that's why they went this way, right? It's much more spectator friendly and exciting to watch.
But my lungs burn just thinking about the ascent. I mean, seriously, that's no joke.
No, I mean, and they're full on sprinting up the hill for 4 minutes. It's an all-out effort. And it's an all-out effort that you then have to think about how you can recover and do it again, right? So in the sprint, you have to be able to do that from your qualifying run to quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. So you could be doing this 4 times.
Do they take much rest time in between rounds?
Yeah, probably about 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, but
Which
still,
sometimes
not
is harder,
much.
right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's harder to get back off the couch then. So oftentimes you'll start seeing at some of these World Cup races that teams have spin bikes out there so that between the heats, athletes are staying loose, just like you would see on cycling races, warming up and cooling down.
Yeah, this is making me feel like it's the velodrome where they do
Yeah,
these
exactly.
multiple high endurance, high speed races, and then you just stand there and wait for the next
Mhm.
one.
Yeah, that's actually a good comparison.
Besides the insanity of it, what makes someone go into this versus alpine or versus cross country or versus the other ski disciplines in the Olympics?
That's a good question. Why do they go into it? I think it definitely attracts a slightly different person, a little bit more. It's more of the adventure side of it is where the sport starts, right? So it's not cross country skiing where you're always on a set track that's nicely freshly groomed. The heart of ski mountaineering is in the mountains and exploring and traversing and climbing and descending big peaks. So I think it attracts that type of athlete. And then once they're hooked into the sport, then they get wrapped up into the spandex wearing fast racing and into that. However, though, now that ski mountaineering or skimo racing is gaining more traction in the US, we are seeing a lot more crossover from other sports. So not only from cross country skiing, but cycling. We even have an athlete who's a former speed skater, 3-time Olympic speed skater, who's come to skimo. So I think it's an exciting sport. You've got to know how to downhill ski and essentially cross country ski and put them all together.
When you talk about the skis being small, toothpick sized, how does that differ from a regular downhill ski?
A lot. um, so a regular downhill ski is going to, I mean, it's quite heavy when you pick it up. It's made out of multiple layers of whatever it's made out of, carbon and wood, big thick metal edges. It's got this side cut. You can flex it. It really withstands a lot of pressure. Not to mention their bindings, right? And the alpine bindings are quite chunky, hold their boots in place. They're even risen off the ski so that when they carve a hard turn, that their boots don't hit the snow. In comparison, a ski mountaineering ski is as light and fast as you can get because, as I had mentioned, 90% of the race is going uphill. So you want to be light and fast on the uphill, and then you'll make it work on the downhill. So the ski mountaineering skimo skis are 2 pounds as opposed to like 15 pounds. They are very thin, very thin. They break easily, honestly. It's not uncommon to see broken gear in these races. And then your binding is minuscule. The toe piece is about as minimal as you need to have 2 little pins that hold in the toe. And then the heel is about 1 inch by 1 inch with these 2 pins that you step into and it holds your heel. So you're held at like 3 points of contact onto your ski. And then you're directly onto the ski with your full carbon boot. So then when you try to make a tight turn, there's sometimes risk for your boot hitting the snow and sliding out. So there's definitely some technique to skiing downhill for that. So in general, we're talking like almost cross-country ski looking equipment that then you have to try to ski downhill.
Okay. Because then, as you were describing it, my next question would be how does it differ from a cross country ski beyond the fact that the cross countries have no heel attachment and different
Yeah, so
shoes?
they're definitely wider than a cross country ski. Similar length. The men ski on 160s and the women ski on 150 centimeter length. And boots differ significantly from cross country boots. Skimo boots have a lot of forward and backward flex to them when they're in the walk uphill mode. But when you get to the downhill mode, part of the transition is you bend down, flip this lever that locks them into a rigid position so that you then can, and then you clip into your heels. So your heels are attached like an alpine boot. But then on the downhill, you have more rigidity to hold you in place as you make your turns.
Sorry, my mind is blown.
Okay, so we've got the skis, the boots, the suit. Is there a helmet?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
thank
There's a
goodness.
yeah, right. There's a mandatory helmet, and there's a backpack that is mandatory, especially for these short races. That has to part of the transition when they get to the running up the stairs part is the skis have to be secured onto the backpack in 2 points of contact. So there's these very specific Skimo race backpacks that have a loop on the bottom left corner of the suit of the backpack, and this kind of bungee cord with an L hook on the right shoulder, so that when they're doing this transition, it's very smooth. They've practiced this, millions of times. They quickly they step out of their skis by releasing the toe bindings. They put their skis together, they slide it through the loop in the lower part of the backpack, around their back, hook the top part of their skis, and then their skis are secured onto their backpack. They pick up their poles and they start running.
Okay, so we haven't talked about poles. What did the poles look like for
The
this?
poles look very similar to cross-country ski poles. They're very light. They're a similar length to the classic distance cross-country ski poles, not skate poles where they're like up by their nose. These are kind of a little bit below their armpit in length.
Do they carry anything else in the backpack? Or is that just for show after that?
For these short races, they do not have to carry anything else in the backpack. For the longer races, again, not in the Olympics, but kind of the marquee event of ski mountaineering, you do have a lot of other required gear, mostly avalanche safety gear, because we're traveling up and through avalanche terrain. So a beacon, probe, shovel, extra jacket, that kind of stuff. But for the Olympic disciplines, no, nothing else has to be in the backpack.
Is there controversy in the Skimo community about it being these very short TV-friendly races versus kind of where the sport came from?
There certainly was. When the Olympics were announced and these were the disciplines that were chosen, there definitely was a little bit of, a little bit of maybe disappointment that it's not the showcase of what the sport has always been. However, I think people have certainly embraced the excitement of these short distance races, and with what sounds to be like the positive feedback and likelihood of future Olympics, based on the future Olympics and their locations being in kind of schemo-centric areas. It sounds like one, Skimo should have a good longevity in the Winter Olympics for the next few coming up, in addition to adding it back in some of the longer distance races. And as you've seen too, maybe since this is its inaugural year, oftentimes sports are started with their first year with a kind of smaller number. And so that too, right? There's only 18 men and 18 women allowed in these races, which is very small. It's a shallow pool of athletes that they're accepting.
When you say Skimo-centric areas, are we talking kind of what we would expect? Western Europe, US, Canada?
Mhm.
W What
Exactly.
other big those are the big players.
Yeah, Western Europe is kind of the hub of ski mountaineering. The World Cup takes place primarily in Western Europe. We're talking Switzerland, France, Spain, Italy, Austria, those countries. And when you look in the future of the Winter Olympics, right, we're in Italy now, and then France, Utah, right back into the US, and then hopefully Switzerland too. If it lines up like that, I think ski mountaineering has a very high percentage of being in all of those. But it is growing, and now there are World Cup skimo races in Eastern Europe and in Asia, and so it really is expanding.
Are there certain kind of ski mountains that are better for this? Because 'Cause you're gonna be in Bormio in Italy. Good site, not good site? How does that stack up with some of the other places?
So I think for these short disciplines, the location is less of a factor. It's on man-made snow and just needs to have those kind of those criteria of 250 to 300 vertical feet and a set course. So you can pretty much do that at any ski area and make it what it is.
You've been involved in Skimo for a lot of years. How is building the program and, once it got to be an Olympic sport, all of a sudden Team USA says, "Wow, we need to do this." So what has that process been like?
It's gained a lot of traction, especially over the past 2 to 3 years, and within the past 5 years, and then 10 years in the U.S., but growing slowly, and then it's really accelerated recently. So the sport in the U.S. over the past 10 years has definitely been gaining traction. You start to see some youth programs open up, some clubs open up, more regional racing going, and then the U.S. Skimo, which is a nonprofit organization which organizes the national team and the path to the Olympics, started 7 or 8 years ago, and has recently gotten more funding, which has allowed us to ramp up the support for our athletes and gain more traction on the World Cup and get our athletes really to that high competitive level.
Who are the stars of the sport? Who do we need to know about?
We've got some amazing athletes on the US team, but kind of back to the newness of these short disciplines, it's going to come down to the wire. It's going to come down to the wire of who is the best in the sprint and the mixed relay come December 2025. This year on the World Cup is going to really showcase us and see who shines. We've got some great prospective athletes. We've got even some athletes who haven't been Skimo racing in the past couple of years who want to come back into it. So we have a training camp in November, our national team training camp, where athletes will all be together. We'll have a couple of mixed relay time trials where the athletes go head to head. And that gives us our first look of who's coming off the summer, who's healthy, who's strong, to then start getting our fastest teams to the World Cup. And then it'll really kind of play out on the World Cup. But if you want me to give you some names, I can too.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the men's side, we have, in no particular order, these are all very strong athletes. Cam Smith, who is out of Crested Butte, Colorado, has been Skimo racing for a number of years. He was unfortunately laid up for the past 2 years off and on with some injuries, but he's coming back stronger than ever and is a very competitive trail runner and has put up some great results this summer, looking strong. And he's had some podium finishes on the World Cup in years past as well. Try to keep your eyes out for him. He's one that's hard to miss. He's got some great big red hair and great big red beard, great curly red hair as well. Griffin Briley is I'd say young up and coming, only because I think he still has potential, but he's right up at the top of the racers in the US. He is out of Park City, Utah, and is 18 years old. And he has put up remarkable results. He has won multiple youth World Cups over the past 2 years over in Europe. And he entered the senior race division last year, just kind of dabbled in that because he can also race as a junior still. And as a senior was one of the top US racers. He's looking really strong for this year. And then kind of on the more seasoned side of things, John Gaston, who is out of Aspen, Colorado, has been at the top of US Skimo for the past decade. And he's still there. And he's still really strong. So I think he's going to give it a shot as well. So those are kind of 3 top men. There's a long list, and somebody may surprise us. Actually, this is could be a neat story as well. Quinn Simmons, who is a professional road cyclist. He just took 8th or 9th at the World Championships in road cycling. He is from Durango, Colorado, loves skiing, was actually on the Skimo national team as a junior, and podiumed in the sprint discipline in the World Championships in 2017. And he is going to make a resurgence as long as his bike team allows him to. Yeah.
How many skiers can qualify from any one country for the Olympics?
Oh, how, like quota spots? Well, that's a whole
Yes.
nother story. Yeah. So not many. As I had mentioned, there's only 18 men and 18 women spots total for the Olympics. And maximum quota spots per country are 2 men and 2 women. So as far as the qualifications and the quota spots go, in the eyes of the US, we are looking to secure at least 1 spot, and we will do that through the Continental Americas quota spot. And that means that the US needs to be the fastest team in the mixed relay standings throughout the World Cup season compared to any other team in North or South America. They've combined the Americas. So that means Canada's got a strong team. Chile's got a strong team. I don't know if there's other South American teams there that I'm missing, but there's definitely some work to be done. But I think we've got a good chance of securing that spot. And then the second spot would potentially come through the sprint standings.
So there's kind of a country spot and then a person spot, it sounds like.
Yes, no, but they're still
Sort of.
they're still based off of the country.
Yeah,
So
right.
it doesn't have to be a specific athlete who makes it. It's the world ranking for that country's top athlete. So you can have like different athletes kind of score points throughout the year, however the top US race ranker is.
How about on the women's side when we're talking
Yeah.
relay, especially?
Yeah. So we've got some strong women there as well. Grace Stayberg is a name that's been around for a little bit as a Skimo racer. She started as a youth racer, and she, I believe, is 23. She's kind of come up through the junior rankings and is still having some strong results. So she's one to watch. We've got some kind of newer to the sport, but very strong athletes. As I had mentioned at the very beginning, crossover athletes. So Maria Lamb is a 3-time Olympic speed skater. She's retired from speed skating, lives here in Park City, Utah, loves skiing, and obviously still has a competitive edge to her, and has got into Skimo racing and is doing quite well. And then along those same lines is Emelise Von Avis, who I believe lives in Bozeman, Montana, and is a very strong trail runner. Strong results at UTMB and at big trail events. We'll see how she can kind of change her workouts and her training for these shorter events. And then similar to like the John Gaston, long time in the sport, is Jessie Young, who is also out of Aspen, Colorado, has been top of Skimo racing for the past decade, but hasn't been racing as much for the past few years. She had a few young kids, but with the prospect of the Olympics, she is back out and training hard, and I think is going to be a top competitor.
Can people watch the World Cup? Is it easy to find it?
Yeah, so all of the World Cups are on YouTube, and you can just Google. So ISMF, International Ski Mountaineering Federation, is the international federation that puts on the World Cups. So if you just Google ISMF World Cup Skimo, you'll be sure to get all of the races there.
Because now I want to see people crash. No, I don't want to see people crash, but I kind of do.
You talked about equipment breaking frequently. What happens if something breaks during your race? Are you done, or is there replacement equipment?
In these short races, that would take too much time. In these short races, if your ski breaks, you're done. I mean, if you can somehow limp yourself to the finish line with all your pieces, you can do that. But yeah, unfortunately, sometimes that's the end of it. Think short track speed skating, right? Like if somebody clips you on the turn and you crash out, that's super unfortunate. Like you don't have enough time to get up and restart.
Are there any rules or technicalities that if I'm just watching for the first time that I really need to know to understand what's going on?
You know, it's always hard to look in on something when you're so familiar with it. But I'd say for the most part, it's spectator friendly in the sense that they start in a heat, they're all going up the same path and doing the same things, and it's going to be the first person that crosses the finish line wins that heat. You know, sometimes the technicalities, and similar to Nordic racing, you know, it's the first two that cross and then a lucky loser. That gets a little bit confusing with timing. But for the most part, if you're watching it, it's the first person that crosses the finish line.
I'm so excited for this
I
now.
know, I know. It's
Sarah, you have done your job because you've gotten us
All
very
right.
excited for ski mountaineering.
Excellent. I hope you go watch some YouTube videos.
What I really want to do is get my hands on some of those skins. I'm
Yeah.
very
yeah,
curious as to
yeah.
what the feel of those.
I mean, I can go show you one. I don't know if
Yeah.
you want me to grab. I'll go grab one.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Because I would stroke it like a cat.
And then the other way, like
And then the
Velcro.
other way, right?
Okay, different brands come in different colors, but the pink Pomoka skins are very popular. So this is the tip attachment I was talking about, and this notches into the ski tip, and then they're stuck together at the moment. So that's the length of the skin, and on the back side is adhesive, and then this is what's smooth on one side, or if you go in one direction, and then they're very, very fine. You can see like it doesn't stick up that much. And this, the bottom doesn't have any sort of attachment. It just sticks to your ski, but then it rips off very easily. So,
How long? Oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's about 3/4 of the length of the ski. But another kind of technical thing that can go wrong is if snow gets underneath this, or another skier steps on your tip and pulls this off, and your skin falls off during the uphill, you have to stop and try to get it to stick back on, and that takes a while.
How long does a pair typically last? Like, what's the longevity of a pair?
Well, so during a race, you would only use one pair per lap. And then it kind of needs to
Right.
warm back up and get the adhesive. But the actual skin itself, I mean, it depends on how much you use it, but a season or two.
Okay. Because I didn't. I
Yeah.
was curious. I'm curious as how long that adhesive lasts. Basically,
You can, the adhesive, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how many times you put them on and take them off in a season. But you can also kind of re-glue them. You can put new adhesive on. It's more of how quickly the plush wears out. And some people,
Okay.
you kind of want the plush to wear out from, it's like a good pair of jeans, right? Like you don't want them like super starchy and new. You want them worn out, but you don't want them like, or at least, I don't know. I don't want all my jeans with holes in them. But so you want them somewhere in between, right? If they're worn in, they're going to slide really well. But if you go a little too far, then they don't have as enough grip.
It's a whole other rabbit hole
Yeah.
of equipment.
Yeah.
Man, what does a pair of one of those cost typically?
A pair of skins, I think retail costs about $120. And
Oh, that's not bad.
not bad, but I'd say most racers will show up to a race with about 8 to 10 pairs of them. And those will be different brands that they glide a little bit different lengths. You wax them differently, just so you have all the different variations.
So just for the different conditions, even
Mm-hmm.
a particular course will change on a particular day
Mm-hmm.
and then throughout the day.
Exactly.
So you
And,
need your whole variety.
and similar to cross-country skiing, right? I come from a cross-country race background. If you know about that, like if you're in the tracks of a classic ski, right, those can get, even the friction of skis going on the snow can heat it up and glaze it over and ice it, right? So if you're on a set track and there's many racers in front of you, that can even change the formation of the snow and make it either icier or more abrasive.
So you need a skin tech.
You really do. And so on the World Cup, teams have a pretty big support team. You've got a coach, a physio, which is like your massage therapist, and you've got a tech who's waxing and prepping skis. Sometimes there's multiple coaches out there, but yeah, like anything, there's always a big staff, that entourage that goes with them.
Takes a village.
It
Takes a
does.
village to go up that hill and down that hill.
Yeah.
Or you call them a patrol. Really?
Exactly.
This was great, Sarah. Thank you so much. This is a perfect introduction. Gives us a way to get going so that when Milan comes around, we can watch this and really understand what's going on. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Sarah. You can find out more at usaskimo.org, and they are at USA Skimo on Insta and X. I'm kind of excited about this.
I hadn't watched it until we were getting ready for this interview, and it is cool. It's fast.
It is fast, so I already anticipate that I will be like, this was too fast. I want a longer event.
Just watch all the test events. Get yourself ready.
Right. So it'll be exciting to check it out. Let us know what you think of USA Skimo. You can chat with other listeners in our Facebook group. That's Keep the Flame Alive podcast group on Facebook.
Oh mon dieu.
Oh boy, this medal situation is getting really bad.
So people posted photos almost immediately after the Olympics were over of the bronze medals being a little worse for wear.
Right.
And it's not getting better.
No, over 100 athletes have already asked for replacement medals because the bronze tarnish is wearing off. And I know one French athlete likened it to crocodile skin because it's so patchy and just looks really, really bad. One of the athletes who needs a replacement medal are Shoklastani Nick Itkin. The problem seems to be mostly with the bronze medals. The Monnaie de Paris, which is the French mint, said that the issue is a technical problem related to the varnish, according to a recent New York Times article by Tariq Panja and Liz Alderman. The article's really good. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. So check that out. The varnish that they're using was supposed to prevent oxidation, which seems to be the big problem that's happening. But the mint had to change its varnish recipe to conform to recent EU regulations banning the use of the toxic chemical chromium trioxide, which prevents metal from rusting. This is according to the French newspaper La Lettre. LVMH designed the medals, but they have been mum about the whole situation because they're not involved with the manufacturing process. So it's fascinating again. They found a good partner.
But that's to be fair, even clothing designers, you design the clothing and then it's manufactured someplace else. I mean, I don't expect an LVMH designer to be able to come up with the chemical varnish formula.
Right. They just
However, it's a little passing the buck there.
Right. But yeah, we'll have this article in the show notes because, as Shoklastani Michael Payne pointed out to the New York Times, the situation's not a good look for LVMH at all.
I'm glad to see that nobody is pretending that it's not happening.
Right.
Because a lot of times, you did something. You as the athlete didn't store it correctly. Nobody is saying that. So I do give the Mint a lot of credit for saying, yeah, we see a problem. We will replace it. And we're going to figure out why this happened. So mistakes happen. It's always how you handle the mistake. That's real. And that LVMH is not just raising its hand and saying the buck stops here. So good on the Mint for at least saying, yeah, we see the problem and we're fixing it as best we can.
I wonder if they can take the original medal and re-dip it at all, or if they have to start fresh and do
I think
all
they
new
have to
medals.
start fresh because I bet it clings to the metal in such a way that you'd have to probably melt it down to get all the varnish off. I mean, not that I'm a chemist, but just, I've stripped paint and I know that ain't fun.
Well, we will see what comes of this and how round 2 works. Hopefully they will find something. Putting medals on the list. No. Got to talk to a metal manufacturer.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Oh, we have so many updates from Milan-Cortina. This is nice. Things are cruising along in a way. Venue updates. The Aerials and Moguls facility in Livigno is complete and ready to go. Hooray. The Olympia Teledofani alpine skiing track also completed a test event and it is good to go. The World Cup tour does stop there frequently, so they know what they're doing over in Cortina. And I know the skiers really love going there.
It's a great course.
So that is all good to go. But the sliding track, Let's have a chat.
This is our bobsled novella. I mean, we got a name. I mean, every
The
time.
sliding novella? We should call it the sliding novella.
The
'cause
sliding
it's-
novella. I mean, at every single games, one of these
We have a
stories
novella.
comes up that captures our imagination and just keeps going.
The
And we
drama.
keep thinking it's not going to happen. And it just falls in our laps every time. So here's the latest episode of the sliding novella.
Right. There was a two-day technical meeting and inspection on January 16th with Simico, the construction company, the Milan-Cortina organizing committee, the IOC, and all of the sliding sport international federations. They acknowledged the progress that the construction company has made, but they have also said that the schedule, quote, remains tight and challenging, end quote, to meet deadlines. They have to start making ice at the beginning of March and be ready for pre-homologation of the track at the end of March. So we don't have a ton of time. We've seen pictures of track, like the outline in place, but I don't know if that just means, like, it looks like they need to pour concrete, but how much concrete, and do they have all of the refrigeration stuff laid in there? I don't know.
Right. We're not construction workers as long as not being chemists. And do they pre-make those pieces and put them in? Who knows? If there's any bobsled construction experts who can look at these pictures and let us know.
So, yeah, we will see what happens. The group is meeting again in mid-February. I'm sure to get another update. As a reminder, Plan B, Lake Placid.
I kind of want to make a reservation at that hotel we stayed at when we were in Lake Placid because that was a lovely spot.
It was.
Let me see what their cancellation policy is.
Just in case.
Just have the room reservation sitting there, not for no reason. No reason at all.
We have some neutral athlete news. So the International Skating Union has announced a pathway for a limited number of neutral athletes from Russia and Belarus to compete in figure skating, long track, and short track. So one male and one female can qualify in each discipline. And for skating, that is figure skating, that's one pair and one ice dancing couple.
Yes.
No relays, no teams, but there is a pathway for individuals to be eligible to compete. And that comes to us from the Washington Post.
And that'll be really interesting, especially in figure skating, just because obviously Russia over the past several years has been so dominant. And then these past 3 years, they're not there. So we don't even know what's been happening in the figures. It's been a very closed world and how the judges would view these skaters.
That's a very good question, because how much do judges like seeing the routine over a whole season?
A lot. And
And
will non-Russian judges welcome back the Russian skaters?
I don't know. It'll be an interesting situation all around, with so many facets of what is going on, especially with, I mean, this is all based on the war in Ukraine and the violation of the Olympic truce. We haven't even touched on the iceberg that is the scandal around the Kamila Valieva doping situation and how that has affected the women's event at all. So,
Jackie Wong, I'll talk to you soon.
Tickets are coming up. So
I know they had the not the raffle. What's the word I'm looking for?
The
The lottery.
lottery.
You had to sign up for the lottery.
yes, so the lottery registration has closed. 347,000 people have registered. 30% are from Italy and 70% are from other countries. All who registered are guaranteed entry in the priority draw. So if you've registered for the ticket lottery, you will get a 48-hour window of time to buy tickets. You just don't know when that is. So if you get it early, you get more choice. If you get later in the draw, you might find stuff has been sold out. Sales are going to start on February 6th. Each person can buy up to a maximum of 25 tickets.
That's a lot of tickets.
That is a lot of tickets. But if you're going to be the one person to buy them for 4 people, that goes pretty quickly. There's also the possibility for early bird pricing for people who purchase tickets by May 25th. So what is early bird pricing? Cross country, curling qualification matches, women's hockey for the prelims and the playoffs, luge, Nordic combined, skeleton, and Skimo all have discounts for buying tickets early. So if you get them by May 2025. So for example, in cross country skiing, category A is going to cost 120 euros per ticket. But if you get early bird pricing, it's going to be 100 euros per ticket. And then category B would be 80 euros versus 65 early bird pricing. Category C is 50 versus 40 or your early bird pricing. So there's discounted tickets just for those sports and sessions. You have to look at it on the ticket price chart, which we will have a link to that in the show notes, just for those sports, just for certain sessions. So if you're talking like I want to see biathlon or alpine skiing or figure skating or the ceremonies, forget early bird pricing is not going to exist.
But still, that's not a joke. I mean,
No.
20 euros off of a ticket, if you're buying for 4 people, all of a sudden you can buy a whole other ticket.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be a cool little feature. That seems to be a brand new implementation for
I
ticket
think
sales.
this is I'm sorry. I think this is about they're concerned about selling tickets.
Oh, I
So
think
they
so too.
Yeah, they want people committed to this.
If you did not register for this round of tickets, you will have to wait till April 2025 for phase 2 of ticket sales, but that still the early bird pricing is going to happen too. Paralympic tickets go on sale March 2025. Open sale, no registration necessary. Almost everything's got early bird pricing. The only exceptions are ceremonies and late rounds of sled hockey.
Sled hockey. Oh, sled hockey.
You excited?
Oh,
Oh, boy.
oh.
So if you're planning on going to Milan-Cortina, let us know. Either drop us a line or post it up in the Facebook group because I'm curious who is going to go. And when we talk about like 30% of people from Italy have signed up for the ticket lottery, are people in Italy not interested? I mean,
It's not a lot of people that have signed up for this.
no. 104,000?
That's not much.
No. I'm not sure how many tickets. That's something else to look up. How many tickets are available total? So we'll see. And then if you sign up for the lottery, are you going to go?
Right.
Because there's always going to be people whose plans change or they can't make it or life happens and they can't go anymore. Or
Well,
they
I
just
think
decide that they don't want the tickets.
Yeah, I think people are much less worried for Milan than they were for Paris. And I think people learned a lot from Paris in that they planned and planned and planned, and then the prices went down, and then tickets were available. So they didn't need to make those reservations so far in advance. And winter's always smaller and less demand.
Right.
So are people going to do all that last minute stuff?
Yeah. And if you're going to the Olympics, are you going to do what that one organizing person said? And remember that one person for the Milan-Cortina committee who went, well, you're just going for one sport.
Right.
Is that what they're hoping? Or are they hoping that the Olympics fan is going to come out and want to see multiple sports? And if you do that, what are your options really? Because everything is so spread out.
Thankfully, we're talking to Ken Hanscom soon. He will help us all. Did you just yuck my yum with that
I
sound?
did yuck your yum. Yes. So, doping news. The International Paralympic Committee has banned para-swimming athlete Roman Bodnarenko of Ukraine for a period of 3 years until September 5th, 2027 for committing an anti-doping rule violation. They had an adverse analytical finding during the Paris 2024 Paralympics when a urine sample found methamphetamine and amphetamine in his sample. The results have been disqualified and he must forfeit anything gained from those results. This disqualification didn't affect the podium at all.
Welcome to TKFLASTAN.
It is the time of the show where we check in with our team Keep the Flame Alive. These are past guests and listeners of the show who make up our citizenship of our very own country, TKFLASTAN. Bobsled news.
Josh Williamson and Adam Edelman are racing on the North American Cup circuit. At the race in Park City earlier last week, Josh placed first in 4-man and Adam placed fourth in 2-man and 11th in 4-man. The Cup Tour races in Lake Placid.
Snowboarder Chloe Kim is back, winning her 5th LAAX Open.
And speaking of doping news, but thankfully not as bad as it could be, Yul Moldauer has been suspended by USADA for 16 months due to whereabouts violations, meaning he missed 3 drug tests within a 12-month period. He did not have a positive test. It's only a whereabouts violation.
Right, which is a bummer. And he said that a couple of the tests, the whereabouts violations, he was competing and he was getting tested then. The last one that triggered the suspension was after the U.S. trials, the Olympics
He kind of went
trials.
into hiding.
Yeah, and that just was not a good situation. So we're sorry, Yul. It's just tough. It's tough. That the whole whereabouts violation stuff, the whereabouts and tracking everything has to be tough. Sprinter Kenny Bednarek was inducted into the Indian Hills Community College Hall of Fame.
USA Track and Field named 62 athletes and 2 guides to its 2025 Tier Athlete program. TKFLASTANis on the list include Jaden Blackwell, Noel Malkamaki, Daniel Romanchuk, and Justin Fong-Savon.
Congratulations. I hope that means support. I couldn't quite figure that out.
I would expect that, a Tier Athlete program is going to have some cash involved.
Hope so.
And I hope for Justin's sake it's a snowblower, because the poor kid's in Georgia. And he was posting today about, he's like, I didn't move to Georgia to get snow.
And he
I'm
knows
like,
snow.
I'm
He's
like,
from
suck it
Iowa.
up. I know. I'm like, suck it up, Buttercup. Your one snowstorm this decade will be okay.
We have a couple of really fun listener messages. First, we heard from listener Hillary, who said he was listening to our first Sydney 2000 story, and he was reminded that if Manchester, UK had won the bid, he could have climbed to the highest point on his farm and watched the sailing events that were due to be held in North Wales with binoculars.
That gives me such a beautiful image.
Right?
These rolling hills in Wales, and he's just sitting there watching sail. That would have been, I'm sorry, Hillary. That breaks my heart a little bit.
And then we also heard from listener Brian, who saw The Fire Inside and thought the movie was good, did not know Clarissa Shields' story as well as others, which that is the running theme. And I keep seeing stuff about Clarissa Shields lately and how much she has accomplished, which is kind of maddening how her story has fallen through the cracks in a way. Brian did say he knew that Katie Taylor, who won a gold for Ireland in boxing in those same Olympics, had a very different reception in terms of popularity, money, etc. after the games, which made him consider that part of the issue is in the USA, you have to compete against a lot more gold medalists for money and support afterwards. Plus, some people just draw the public in. There's a whole generation of people who see Shaq on TV once a day who are not even alive when he was in the Olympics or the NBA. Shields is now a very accomplished pro boxer, but she's not really a celebrity or famous in the greater culture. He will give Shields' Olympic ring tattoo you saw near the end of the movie a 6 out of 10.
I want to know what those 4 points are lost in.
Well,
Brian, let me know what lost the 4 points.
So yeah, if you've seen The Fire Inside, let us know what you think, or check out that episode where we talk about it. And that's going to do it for this episode. Let us also know what you think of ski mountaineering, and if you're looking forward to watching it during Milan-Cortina.
We love hearing from you. You can chat with us and other listeners on our Facebook group, Keep the Flame Alive Podcast. Email us at flamealivepod@gmail.com. And the voicemail and text line are always open at 208-352-6348. That's 208-FLAME-IT. If you need more Olympics and Paralympics in your life, and who doesn't, sign up for our newsletter at flamealivepod.com. We'll have a link to that in the show notes.
Next week you have to tune in for this story. We will speak with Bruna Morrow, who is a cross-country skier from Brazil. We should be able to call her an Olympian, but something tragic happened before she could get to Beijing, and her story is incredible. And it's not just being a skier from a country that doesn't have a ton of winter and a ton of resources. There are many, many layers to this story, and you will not want to miss it. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep the flame alive.